People, what's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome to episode 4 of the Chelsea Fan TV podcast. If you've missed any of the first 3 episodes, make sure you head back to the channel and check them out. And before we get into today's episode, please do smash the likes on this video and also subscribe to the channel as well. We have now hit the 160k mark, so thank you all for subscribing. But
Let's go.
there's plenty more work to do, guys. So if you're watching this video and you're not subscribed, you know exactly what to do. Episode 4, we're here. Delighted to be joined by Lewis again. Hope you're good, bro. It's a big week again for Chelsea. On the back of 3 wins last week, and head into Milan and San Siro and then Villa Park on Sunday. So it's another big week for Potter and the boys. Before we get into the Milan game, let's just quickly look back on the Wolves game. We were both there on the weekend. I think the overriding feeling was that a bit of a sense of kind of shock, I suppose, at how many changes we made and yet how well we played. Because I don't know about you, mate, but I thought when I seen the lineup come out, I thought, oh shit, we might be in a bit of trouble here. 7 changes is pretty bold. I know, he'd had half an eye on this game, but I wasn't expecting that many changes. But it worked out perfectly in the end. But were you surprised with how well we played, considering he virtually changed all the outfield team pretty much?
Yeah, and I kind of feel like my trust in the squad has gone up a little bit because of that game too, because I had the same feeling when that lineup came out. I thought if we take a 1-0 here, I'm happy. I didn't really have any faith in any of the front 3, and they all contributed to goals. And I'll be real, we did start poorly. And if there's any question mark I have right now, it's only on the way that we start games, because we don't really kick on until we score first. But the same thing as the AC Milan game. As soon as the first goal came in, the floodgates opened. We started making better chances. We started looking more confident on the ball. We had a bit more composure. We were taking more players on 1v1. And the second goal, third goal, executed brilliantly by Mount and Pulisic. And the Brozier goal was just very refreshing to see, because we don't really see strikers make goals for themselves. And for his debut, that was a very, very clean finish from him. But yeah, I was happy with the performance. Like I said, didn't think we were great in the first half. I thought in transition we did look a little bit shaky, but we were very good in build-up play. We were strong in possession. We were making way more chances than I expected us to make with the way that Wolves were setting up. It was just the composure and the end product at the end that was still just lacking a bit. Like, we were hitting the ball everywhere except the goal. But Havertz gets the first goal, and as soon as that happens, floodgates open, and we just controlled Wolves from then.
I think from my perspective as well, I think it was good to see that despite, the poor finishing in the first half, let's be honest, we created a lot once we got going a little bit. We did miss a lot of opportunities. And to say that, our finishing was quite poor and we still scored 3 goals. It's been a while since we said that. Normally, if we don't finish, we're not scoring any goals, but we still managed to get 3 goals for ourselves. And heading into the Milan game, we've been able to rest a number of key players. I think it's great that we didn't have to use the likes of Aubameyang or Sterling at all from the bench. Chilwell obviously rested after back-to-back 90 minutes. Reece James only coming on for about 15, 20 minutes towards the end. So it's worked out well for us in terms of the fact that the 7 changes have paid off. The guys that have come in have done their chances of starting games in the future no harm. And, I think, I don't know about you, mate, but it feels like for the first time in a while, I know it's early days under Graham Potter still, but there seems to be a bit of a good feeling around the club again. I think towards the end of Tuchel's reign, things were pretty bad. I'm not going to lie. I love Thomas Tuchel, but things were bad towards the end. There was a real bad feeling around the club. It felt pretty toxic. And now it just seems to be a breath of fresh air, new ideas in the building. And the players seem to be enjoying themselves again.
Yeah, for the first time, I feel confident going into games. That performance made me feel a lot more confident going into tomorrow's game, because I think it's going to be an open match as well, and we seem to thrive when we have more space to be able to deal with in the attacking half of the pitch. I think we could easily go on a run of games until Manchester United with just 4 straight wins. I think we could beat AC Milan. We could definitely go to Villa and get a result. Who do we have after that? We have Brentford after that.
Yeah.
Can get a result there. Then we go into the United game, where if we've done our job, we're on 7 straight wins. And the confidence should be booming around the club in terms of the fan base, in terms of the players as well. Because to me, the best thing that I got coming out of that Wolves game was the players that we've been criticizing that are now starting to turn up. Havertz got himself a goal. Mount got 2 open play assists. The one thing I've been asking more of, open play assists, and he got 2 of them in that game, and he handled them brilliantly. Pulisic got himself a goal too.
Yeah.
Brozier got himself a goal. They all had a certain impact on the pitch. And we're going to have to be relying on that B team a lot as well. Well, not B team, it's a bit harsh, but we're going to have to rely on rotation a lot in the lead up to the World Cup. So to have that confidence in the squad and to know that you can bring them on and you can actually rely on them, that makes the fan base stronger, because then you can rely on the whole squad as a whole.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. I think, and as I said, the guys that come in took their opportunities. These guys have been waiting for an opportunity. They're going to get opportunities under the manager, and you've got to take it when you get those opportunities on the pitch. And I thought, as you said, Pulisic, who's coming for criticism, doesn't really done his chances any harm of starting games in the future. I think Conor Gallagher, who was arguably for me, I think he was pretty much man of the match. He was superb, and I think it's really refreshing to see him being kind of played further up the pitch. I think Tuchel was doing him dirty a little bit, playing him in that two-man pivot, which is not his game. But as soon as he's higher up the pitch, he's a lot more effective. I'm not saying that he's going to, start tomorrow night in a San Siro or anything like that, because I think that might be a bit soon for him. But
I'm saying I wouldn't mind.
I wouldn't mind it. But, I think it's good now that we're seeing players that are kind of playing in their positions, and they're having an impact. And I think everyone in the squad having an impact is only going to be a positive. It's going to be, good morale around the training ground and whatnot. And obviously, good results breeds confidence. And it's very easy to manage a side or it's easier to manage a team that's winning. And it's easier to keep those players happy when the team's winning. It's when you're not playing and the team's losing, it becomes a little bit harder. But I think, it's been positive. It's 3 wins on the trot, back-to-back clean sheets now as well, having not had one since the first game of the season. Mm-hmm. So things are looking a little bit better defensively. We're looking a little bit better going forward. There's positive signs. And as you say, mate, there's no reason why we can't kind of string together a run of wins now, sort of up until that United game, because the fixtures are reasonably favourable towards us. And you'd think with the squad we've got,
the Milan game. Because I think you need a statement performance like AC Milan away. Because they're not going to be any easy pushovers in spite of the game that we had last time. It's a different pitch. Atmosphere is going to be completely different as well, something that we haven't seen before. And it's going to be a completely different beast. But if we can go there and we can get a result, sends a massive message out, and they should be going into the next few games with full confidence.
Yeah, I mean, that nicely brings us on to the Milan game. I think for me, this is probably going to be Graham Potter's toughest game in charge so far in the short time he's been here. And I think this is going to be kind of a test of how things have been going so far, how we play in this game. Because I think if we can go to the San Siro and get a result, like a win, then I think it goes to show that actually, you know what, we're building some momentum, and we are a decent side. So this for me is kind of like not a watershed moment, but this is a big moment in his short space of time at the club. This is a massive game. As you said, this is a chance to send a statement and show that, we can be a serious outfit this season, despite kind of the difficulties at the start of the season. But I don't know. I mean, for me, as long as we don't lose this game, that's the most important thing, because in terms of a qualification perspective, we've got 4 points, the same as Milan from the first 3 games. As long as we don't lose this game, then qualification's in our own hands, and you fancy us to get the relevant points against Salzburg and Zagreb in the corresponding fixtures. But I mean, as long as we don't lose, that's the main thing. But I mean, before we get into talking about the game in a bit more detail, I just want to cover a couple of bits that have come from Graham Potter's press conference. Obviously, we know Kante's been out since the Tottenham game, second game of the season, picked up an injury. He was kind of making progress, and it's been a setback in training before this game, I believe, or I don't know when, but fairly recently. Not sure the extent of it, but it doesn't sound particularly promising. I mean, for me now, it's getting to the point. I think it's also quite sad to see someone that's been one of the best midfield players in the world in the last few years, and we've got some very good years out of him. His body just can't seem to deal with it anymore. And I think this maybe forces Chelsea's hand, from my perspective, that, we need to look at perhaps addressing this in January if we can, and offering Kante any new contract would purely be based on sentimentality, and that's never a good way to go about business, to offer someone a contract because of kind of what they've done in the past, or because you feel a little bit sorry for them in a situation they're in. But I mean, this is not really a surprise. I think for me, Kante now is almost like the equivalent of sort of having a Ferrari, but you never drive it; it just sits in the garage. I think it's the same sort of thing as that now. I mean, where do you stand on this latest setback for Kante? I mean, it almost feels like, I'm not saying we're not going to see him play again. Of course we will, but it's just a player he is now, and he's a bit of I don't want to say he's a liability, but he's just not available for what he need him to be available for.
The good thing is we're not relying on him, and we're not
Yeah.
putting ourselves at a disadvantage because he's not in the squad. But in terms of contract negotiations, it just makes Chelsea's stance and personally my own stance a lot clearer. I don't mind Kante staying. I keep saying it. But if we're going to keep him on a 3+1 year deal, or we're going to keep him for a long period of time, we're only really holding ourselves back. He should be on a very short-term contract, or he should be on a contract that's all based on his appearances. Like, he gets the full wage if he plays that week. If he doesn't, he gets a percentage of that wage. Something along the lines of that could work. Because I still keep saying, as long as we can bring in better players that we don't have to rely on him with, we don't need to. We can still keep him within the squad. But for me, the problem is he wants a 3+1 year deal. He wants other guarantees in terms of game time and everything like that. And he's not playing at that level. And that's what the problem is. He's not even available. And then when he's available, he needs a recovery period to get up to full speed. And then after a couple of games, it's another injury. Or in this case, he was in training, came back, and then was injured straight again before he even got onto the pitch.
Yeah,
Like, it's clear as day. If he's negotiating for a first team contract when you can't play first team minutes, then that's a problem.
yeah, it is a problem. And I think now we've come to the point as well where, as you said, we're not as reliant on him. And even this season, we've literally pretty much played every game bar 1.5 games roughly without him. So I think it goes to show that we can actually get by without him. I know he can be important for big games, but ultimately, at the end of the day, we're doing pretty well without him. So I think our reliance on him is definitely reduced. And, we can look at bringing in players like Alvarez, maybe Jude Bellingham in the summer, maybe Declan Rice. And then, football
But we
moves on
need him
quickly.
more with this run of games coming up.
Yeah,
Because
that's
that's
true.
just
There's
one
going to
less
be,
player we can't rotate
yeah,
with.
yeah. That is the point. I think it's fair now. In that 2-man pivot, we're basically choosing 2 from 3. We've got Ruben, Cover, and Jorginho, and it's going to be one of those is going to get rotated out in the rotation because there's not really any other options in the middle of the park right now. So that could be problematic, kind of down the line. But I mean, on contracts, just while we're talking about it, Thiago Silva was obviously the player on press conference duty alongside Potter in today. Talks of a new contract for him. Obviously, we know that he's out of contract at the end of the season. 38 years, he'll be 39 years old next season if he signs on. He's talking about his future. Probably he might talk about it around the World Cup or after the World Cup. He's had a phenomenal impact here. He's the best centre back in the Premier League. Would you? I mean, I'm sure the club would like to keep him. I think they will. Ultimately, it's going to be down to him whether he wants to go back to Brazil and wind down, or whether he thinks he's got one more season at the top level still in him. You'd be more than happy to keep him. I think all Chelsea fans would be happy to keep him.
Not even a question,
Yeah.
really. Like, I'm really surprised by the news because I had it in my mind that he was going to Brazil straight after this year. If he wants to stay for another year, give him whatever he wants. I don't care. He'd still be our best centre back at the club. He'd still be the best centre back in the league. Doesn't make a difference. It is the easiest decision in my life if Thiago Silva wants to stay here personally. Even if he does go through a decline, we should, if we're going in for Vardy like we've been linked with the whole season, we can manage that and we'd still have a stronger squad as a result. If he wants to stay here, should be a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's not a difficult decision. At the end of the day, it will be down to him. But hopefully, he wants to stay. Seems like he loves it here, so I don't see any reason for him not wanting to stay. So that should be something that's pretty easy to get done and something that kind of all Chelsea fans will be delighted with. I mean, looking ahead to tomorrow night, then San Siro, as we said, a difficult place to go. It's going to be a lot harder than you would expect it to be. A lot harder than the game at Stamford Bridge, which turned out to be quite comfortable in the end. 3-0 win for us. Milan not really causing us any problems at all. How much more difficult do you expect this game to be? Obviously, it's going to be a more intimidating atmosphere with the San Siro packed with Milan fans. They've got a few players back now. Teo Hernandez is back, a big player for them. Obviously, the likes of Giroud that we know well, Rafa Leao, De Kellaere,
Was
the
there
young
anyone
Belgian.
else back, or is it just Theo
I
Hernandez?
think I'm not sure. There might be a couple of others back, but I mean, Teo Hernandez is an important one back for them. So, I mean, how much more difficult do you expect this to be than the game at Stamford Bridge was?
I think Rafael Leao have a lot more space to deal with on the left because there's going to be a double threat to deal with now. And the open pitch also means much more of an open game on both sides. I think AC Milan will feel more confident on a pitch that they are more used to playing under. With us, it might be a disadvantage to us, but with the fact that we're playing more progressive, it might also play into our hands. It might mean we see a really good game of football. I don't know, but I expect there to be a lot of goals. I don't think AC Milan would play defensive at all. They didn't even really try to when they came to the bridge. So I do think it could go either way. It really could, because the atmosphere will also play into it as well. Because I don't think Chelsea players would be used to playing under something like that. But it's time for Chelsea to make a statement, and we're 100% capable of making that statement too. We've shown we can absolutely dominate teams in the limited time Potter's been here. It's just the time to do it on the big stage. We're capable of it, but AC Milan are also capable of getting a result too.
I mean, yeah,
It's
they are.
about not being complacent and just locking down the left-hand side again like we did last time.
Yeah, that's going to be the key. I mean, Milan obviously responding from their loss at Stamford Bridge with a 2-0 win against Juventus at the weekend. So that's obviously a big win for them. Our form is good as we know and as we've discussed. In terms of selections then for this game, I think logically it would suggest that most of the players that didn't start the game on the weekend against Wolves are most likely to come back in. I mean, you for sure Raheem Sterling will come back in and play. Do you expect Aubameyang to come back in as well? I mean, I would. I know it's not going to happen, but I wouldn't be adverse to seeing Broja start. But I don't think that obviously isn't going to happen. But you think for the centre forward role is very much going to be Aubameyang. I mean, Havertz played there on Saturday. You would expect Oba with his experience to come back in and lead that line.
Yeah, I think Aubameyang comes back in anyway. I wouldn't mind seeing Broja start because I do think there's a lot of potential in that kid. We just haven't seen him start a game for us yet. But the occasion isn't right for it. And I feel like you're throwing him to the lions a little bit with that one. So I think you go with Aubameyang anyway. And Aubameyang, Sterling, I'm not sure who plays with them because you could make a pick between Havertz, Pulisic. You could potentially pick Mount as well, but he'd probably be playing in behind. Any one of those three could kind of take a start. Like Pulisic looked really good when he had a lot more space to deal with. Same thing with Havertz. Mount got 2 open play assists. All of them are staking a claim for it, but I don't know who goes in. I think from Potter's point of view, probably just picks Mason Mount anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, I kind of want to see Pulisic start.
Yeah,
I have a little feeling I want to see him start.
I mean, I don't think that's something we thought we would have been saying not so long ago.
The same thing for any of them three. I'll be real about
that. I agree,
it
mate.
goes to show how well we've been playing, at least.
Yeah, I mean, like in terms of formation, we've seen Potter play a back four away at Palace, but in the Champions League games, he's very much gone with the 5. Are you expecting the 5 to stay? I think it kind of makes sense in a game like this to have a bit more defensive solidity. Thiago Silva is going to come back into the side. You'd imagine he's going to be a lot more comfortable in a 3. The back 5 is kind of the obvious choice for me. I mean, would you agree with that back 5 for tomorrow night? I mean, I don't think a 4 is really necessary.
I'd go for the 5 because we always play better in a 5. Like even in spite of the Wolves game, we always play our best football when we got 5 at the back. So for me, I'd go 5. You could potentially go 5-3-2, 3-4-3. All depends on your preference of what you want to see in midfield.
I mean, it'll probably switch up anyway in between, like as the game's going on. It's quite fluid, the system. You know, we might see a defending a 4 or a tackle and whatnot in different systems. So there's definitely room there for some flexibility within the system during the game. Potter likes to do that. In terms of the goalkeepers, though, mate, it looks like that Kepa is the number 1 at the moment. I mean, would you go along with that? Do you think he stays in goal tomorrow night? Because for me, goalkeeping and kind of your back line are the areas where you want the least rotation possible. You want to build a good relationship between the keeper and the centre backs. That's really important. And I think at the moment, it seems like obviously for the first couple of games, there was no decision to make because Mendy wasn't fit. But the last 2 games, Mendy's been fit. He's on the bench and he's stuck with Kepa. I mean, I never thought we'd be sitting here heading like this season saying that Kepa's our number 1 keeper, but it looks like that's the way it is at the moment.
Kepa hasn't done anything to be dropped.
No,
that's the way I see it. Every time Mendy was playing, I was seeing mistakes. And it got to a point where you just lost all confidence in him. Same way I think he lost confidence with himself. He'll probably have an opportunity to break back into the squad. I don't know when that will come, but it's a long season. But right now, Kepa's come in. Our defense looks more solid. He hasn't made any big mistakes. He's done everything he's needed to do in the moment. Do think his kicking could improve a little bit, but it's
Yeah.
still not as bad as Mendy's. And yeah, like there's no reason for Kepa to be benched. I still don't think he's been tested yet, seriously.
No.
But I also don't think it's a stick that you should be beating with him with either. You have to play whatever you have to play. And the fact is, his performances have been good enough. So deserves to start against Milan.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I think tomorrow night's a big night for him. If he can come through that with, say, a clean sheet or having made some really important stops, that'll be big for his confidence. And I think that would obviously further cement his place in the team. I mean, one decision that is going to be, well, it's not tricky necessarily, but it's going to require some thought is that left wing back slot. I mean, does he bring Ben Chilwell back in, or does he go with Cucurella? Chilwell has obviously got that Champions League winning experience on the big stage. Cucurella not so much, but obviously Potter knows him inside out, brought him over to the Premier League in the first place. We've seen how much of an impact Cucurella has had since he's joined the club. He's done really well. I thought it was very good again against Wolves on the weekend. What would you be going with? Because for me, I'd be happy with either one starting, but it is quite a tricky decision who's going to get the nod. I mean, who would you go with?
Both are quality, but I think Cucurella's been in better form. And Loki, like he's been very, very impressive. Even just like the small things against Wolves, his build-up play, his 1v1s, his decision making. He's not a slow passer. He's a very progressive passer. He doesn't do these small little tippy-tappy 5-yard passes that don't lead anywhere. He's playing direct passes forward. And I can't lie, from Ben Chilwell the last few games, he hasn't really been doing that. His progressive play has been a lot slower for me. So for me, especially with that space that we're going to have at the San Siro, Cucurella has to start.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I'll be happy with either one, but I can't, I wouldn't be, I can't sort of disagree with you on that Cucurella point. It might work better, and Chilwell can obviously be used from the bench. I mean, just on the point of the benches, we know Milan have got a lot of players missing. Chelsea got a lot of strength on that bench. You'd expect the likes of Pulisic, Havertz, Brozier, Conor Gallagher to be on there. There's a lot of firepower on the bench and a lot of players that make a difference. I mean, ultimately, this could be where the game could be won and lost in terms of what we've got available to us on the bench. And we've seen that Potter, likes to use the bench. He's used it well. And unlike Thomas Tuchel, one of our big criticisms of Tuchel was the fact that he waited so long to make subs and didn't necessarily give them enough time to actually make an impact when they did come on. So, I mean, how impressed have you been with Potter's use of kind of the squad on the bench in his short time here? And how important do you think that could be tomorrow night as well?
I think Potter's substitutions have only just got better and better in terms of the impact that they're having and the control that we're having in games. And we're starting to use our squad, not necessarily correctly, but we're being smarter with it. I can't speculate what it's going to be like for AC Milan and everything, but I think the manager's done an amazing job since first coming in, because it could easily have been a lot harder. And if it was a lot harder, it probably would have been a lot more toxic from the fans as well, because then we'd all start thinking of Tuchel and everyone would start getting bitter towards certain players. He's managed to come in and stabilize a very rocky ship early on. I think that speaks a lot of him. We did get lucky a bit as well. I'd say lucky, but with all the postponements and everything, they came at the right time. If we're being real about it, they came at the right time, because if we had that Fulham game like 2-3 days after Tuchel's sacking and we don't get a result, could be looking at a completely different season, completely different atmosphere around the ground. But Potter had a bit more time to work with the squad, figure out how he wants to utilize certain players, and we look like we're cooking. We're doing really well right now.
No, we are, mate, and I'm delighted with how things are going. I don't think it couldn't really be going much better than it currently is. I mean, just lastly on the midfield, and as we discussed before, there's not really too many options there for a rotation. I thought Loftus-Cheek again was outstanding on the weekend against Wolves, looking like he's very much making himself like one of the first names on the team sheet in that midfield. I mean, would you expect him to continue alongside Kovacic? Obviously, Kovacic come off the bench at the weekend to replace Jorginho. You'd expect this is a sort of game that Jorginho might have a chance of starting in, but for me, I think it's got to be Ruben and Kovacic again.
Ruben doesn't deserve to get dropped on the way that
No.
he's been playing. This is the thing. It's like if it's a midfield three, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see Kovacic, Ruben, and Jorginho, and I'd be very happy with it. If we play as a two, I don't know, because usually I always think we need Jorginho in there for someone to be able to settle possession and sit while the other person can roam. But they both did their job excellently against that Milan midfield. So there's no reason to drop them against the same midfield. You could easily account for either of them. Could be Kovacic, Ruben, could be Jorginho, Ruben. But I think regardless of what happens, Ruben has to start.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just on him. I mean, this is slightly off topic, but in terms of the World Cup, if Ruben keeps playing like he's been playing the last few weeks up until the World Cup, I mean, do you think he's got an outside chance of making the World Cup squad? You look at England's midfield options. I mean, Rice and Bellingham are going to be the starting pivot. Calvin Phillips has gone to Man City. He's not playing. He's been injured. Henderson's past it. There's not that many other options in there. Look at maybe Ward-Prowse from Southampton. But, I mean, if Ruben keeps his form up, I'm not saying that Southgate's going to pick him, so I don't think he will. But he should be very much in the conversation.
Definitely will be if he keeps these performances up. I know, like with England, there can be a little bit of a bias towards top six clubs as well. So if he does show that consistency, he 100% will get an opportunity. It's just about whether he does, though. Because the thing about Ruben is he is a little bit inconsistent. That's why he's more of a squad player, and he's happy with that role, and we're happy to have him in that role. I always think he's a great engine that we can use in the squad in whatever position we throw him into. And you need players like that who are willing to play their position like that. But yeah, I don't know. All depends on how he plays over the next few weeks. But if he keeps it up, he deserves it.
Yeah, no, I think it's as simple as that. You know, just keep up the good form, and it's mad. Like when you look back at, you know, he's been here so long, and yet when you think back a couple seasons when he was on loan at Fulham and in that team that went down, he wasn't even starting week in, week out for a relegated Fulham side. How much he's kind of got his head down and pushed on to where he is now is quite some turnaround. So yeah, no, he definitely deserves like all the plaudits he's getting at the moment, because he's turned into a really important member of the squad. But mate, last thing really to round out, what we're thinking score prediction tomorrow. Are we thinking it's going to be a lot of goals? Do you think it's going to be sort of a tight, cagey game?
Goals, definitely goals.
You think goal? Yeah.
Yeah, I could see 2-1 Chelsea. 2-1. Nah, maybe 3-1. Let's be confident. We'll go 3-1.
Yeah, they go.
Yeah.
He's going to score.
Still going Sterling, Aubameyang, and let's say Ruben. Let's keep the good form going. Let's keep
the vibes going for Ruben. I do actually think we're going to win. I think we're on a good run. Confidence is high. I think Milan are definitely beatable. As we said, it's going to be more difficult. I think we'll concede. I'm going to go for a 2-1. I think Aubameyang will get on the score sheet again. And I'm going to go for a goal for Thiago Silva on his return to the San Siro.
So okay, let's go.
We'll take a 2-1, but at the end of the day, any win will do. I don't care who scores or how it goes in. The most important thing is getting the 3 points. But yeah, tomorrow night will go a long way to securing our qualification for the last 16. But yeah, it seems like a good point to round out episode 4. Lewis, thanks for your time as always, bro. Guys, make sure you smash the likes on this video and subscribe to the channel as well. And if you liked the conversation that myself and Lewis have been having, make sure you check out our personal channels as well, both linked in the description as well. And we will catch you in episode 5 shortly, guys. So take care and up the Chelsea.